GM everyone. Thank you for tuning in. We are in another workshop. Hello, Alfonso. Hola. ¿Cómo estás? How are you?
Hello, bien. Thank you, Fede, for having me here. Just got my caffeine, so I think you guys will notice a progressive improvement in energy throughout the talk. But super excited to help you all learn everything that we've learned so far about AI agents and their on-wallet architectures.
Awesome. Well, a little bit of introductions first. I'm Crypto Fede. I'm head of the Relat mode. Have my shirt on now. And Alfonso here, co-founder at Crossmint. You must have seen him around. The Crossmint team is all over the place, like all around with AI agents, same as mode. We're like, they're one of the main pushers of Goat, which is an open source framework as well. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about wallet architecture for AI agents and a bunch of the things that they've been preparing and working on. I wouldn't say for months. I would say even for years. That culminates in the all the cool things that we're seeing on Twitter, that we're seeing you guys working on different hackathons and different developer activations. So it's great to see all the work that you guys are putting out. Pretty impressive, by the way. Um, so, Alfonso, please tell us, who are you? What do you do at Crossmint? What is Crossmint as well? A little introduction for our crowd here, just tuning in.
Yeah. So so I'm one of the founders at Crossmint. I work on all the technical and product side, and I have a few intro slides about me later, so I'll get to more detail about that later. But in a nutshell, so Crossmint is a company that has been in the Web3 space for a little bit over 3 years now. And we're a developer tooling company that's focused on simplifying, adding Web3 blockchain capabilities to your application, to your company, to your agent these days, uh, through things like through a bunch of different building blocks. We have wallets as a service, we have tokenization minting APIs, we have payment APIs like checkouts for NFTs or other kind of tokens, and they all work together as a suite, a bit like you can see a Supabase or Firebase, but for Web3 primitives. And we're super interested in AI agents. We've been working on this for a while. A lot of people on our team also were doing AI agent companies before and joined us recently. And the reason for it is we think, honestly, AI agents is the future, is like the future of user interaction. We think that in the future, most productive things that humans do are just going to be delegated basically to an agent. And that these agents will want to interact, will want to become financial players. They will want to be able to interact with, pay other people, pay agents, buy goods and services, as well as like participate in financial like markets, or like DeFi and things like this. And we think that the natural way for them to do it will be crypto rails. However, this won't happen unless it's easy for agent developers to do that. No? And that's a bit like the position we're taking in this is that we're trying to make things simpler, both with APIs that Crossmint offers, and I'll talk about some of these later, as well as like with ecosystem efforts like this one, participating in this school, and other hackathons, open sourcing Goat, which is a library of on-chain tools for AI agents,
Mhm.
and kind of like anything that we can see to make things happen.
I'm gonna bring back a quote from you from a call that we had a few months ago. Don't get scared, which I actually like stuck in my head so bad, and this was when I was like, okay, we need to do something together with you guys because like you're killing it with the vision that you had, and it was that you guys are building for agent experience and not developer experience, which is of course a catchy phrase, but like I loved it because we are starting to see all of this like agents trying to interact with new things, and they need APIs and they need ways to communicate with different softwares and different like types of information, so that you guys providing the tooling for web 2 to bring all these web 3 actions is kind of, you already have this experience of bringing on-chain tooling to people that have no idea about web 3. And I think that is the main work that we need to do, is bring more developers that don't understand web 3, give them easy tools and easy frameworks, easy repos and stuff like that, to bring on-chain benefits to whatever they're building. And this cross section of Web 2 and Web 3 is what gets me really excited, and where I see, as you said, like agents using blockchain and all of the things that we're building for regular use cases, because crypto is great for that. But yeah, it's hard to understand, sometimes hard to use. So glad to have you, Crossmint, and also the Goat SDK to bring all that to agents. Um, so yeah, I really like that. The idea of agent experience is like right. And I've talked about this, about documentation, about information online, that it needs to be ready for agents and LLMs to be easily consumed. So all of these things like tie together into like this agent experience that you talked about. Um, so yeah, just wanted to bring that back. I really like that phrase. So what are you gonna talk about today? I know you have a cool presentation. You've been working nonstop, so I appreciate you being here. An hour of your time is like worth a lot. So like, thank you very much for being here. And yeah, a little preview on what you're gonna talk about today.
No worries, and thank you for having me. Yeah, so um, we talk with a lot of like agent builders every day. Like there's a lot of independent agent builders, like I assume many of the ones watching this out there. They're more maybe coming on the Web3 space. And then we also talk with a lot of like more, let's call them Web2, big agent companies. And all in all, we've seen there's still, the field is, we're all working here at the cutting edge. But one of the main things that I found is there's been a lot of like confusion and lack of understanding of how do I set up an agent for a wallet for an agent, and like how do I do it without going to jail? Is what I would say. I think if I gave a if I had to give a more catchy or clickbaity like title to this talk, it would be like how to deploy an agent and with a wallet and don't go to jail on the way doing so. There's basically um, a bunch of different ways that you can deploy an agent wallet that have implications on, can the agent fuck up with that wallet? Can, maybe if you're a launchpad, can you rug to your users knowingly or unknowingly, and things like that that actually are regulated, have regulations in the US and Europe and things like this. And also definitely PR issues as well for your customers if they see you do it in the wrong way. And my hope with this talk is to explain as much as I can in simple terms what are the different ways, the different approach you can take, what are the pros and cons of each, and then at the end walk through like some sample code that we have that makes some of it easier as well.
Epic. Well, I think that's great for introductions already. I think people are eager to know what you prepared for us. So I'll let you continue. I'm letting you know that I may pop in at some random points to ask you questions. And if we have questions in the chat, please, please, please ask them. Feel free to just put them in the chat and I'll ask them directly. So we can see your screen now, and it's all yours, Alfonso.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Okay, so for those who are joining the live stream a little bit late, today we're going to be talking about agent wallet architecture. In general, going to be walking through this talk is basically focused for those of you who are planning to graduate from building kind of a indie agent that you're developing at home to you want to deploy something that looks more like a business, be it something that looks like a launchpad, be it something that looks like some of the popular Web2 agents out there, let's say Devin and Cognition Labs or 11x for sales. You want to deploy something in production of real world users and want to make sure you do it in a way that's secure, that's legal, and that doesn't have PR issues later. I'm going to teach you all the different ways to do this. Um, just really quickly, before getting started, just a little bit about me. I've actually been in both crypto and AI for a very long time. On like officially on my resume, I've actually been working on things that I guess you could call it related to agents since 2013. I was the creator of the I'm Not a Robot anti-agent or anti-botting captcha that you see all over the web. So apologies for that. Trying to redeem myself now, helping out with some of the stuff we're doing now. Created Firebase authentication, so tools for signing in. Some of you may have used it if you're developers. Then Google's first, back in the day was called Assistant, but Agent SDK looked very similar to ChatGPT Chat Completion API. in 2016. This API, by the way, is still alive. It's completely useless because the brains behind it are really dumb, but you should check it out. I think Google forgot about it so much that they forgot to kill it. So it's still around, but hasn't changed in like 8 years. Worked very early at WhatsApp, mostly on technical side, on encryption and things like this. And yeah, I've been working at Crossmint since 2021. Although I've been on crypto, unfortunately not investing, but actually programming since 2012 with Bitcoin script. Ethereum since came out, Solana since came out, but always more like nights and weekends until Crossmint. And if anyone is curious about any of those things, feel free to hit me up on Twitter. I guess I forgot to put my Twitter, but if you Google me, you may find it, I think. Happy to talk about any of that another time. What are we going to talk about today? So this is going to look a little bit like a university lecture. I'll try to make it not too boring, but it has a bit of components of like theory. So keep that in mind. This is recorded and you can watch it later. But I feel like there's a bit of a lack of like theory in the field. So it is a bit like, okay, you know, like if you were to go to a quick seminar or something at university, but it has at the end a code walkthrough as well as code that you can copy paste. Keep in mind, if some of these concepts are dense, again, there's going to be Q&A. You can ask me on Twitter, but also there's code at the end that you can copy paste. So that also is another way to understand all of this later. Okay, but feel free to ask me questions. At the end of the day, I just want to make sure there's a solid foundation for anyone going through this school on like all the different things to consider. First, starting light, why the hell do agents want the wallet? I assume many of you already have a theory for the agent you're building on why you want this, but I wanted to highlight some of the things that we've been seeing. First, you have, I think one of the most popular categories, and especially in mode, is agents that are traders. I don't know how you pronounce it, DeFi, DeFi, AIFi, whatever, but agents that basically can trade. There's some that are trading assistants. This is more like a ChatGPT-like interface where you ask it or the top tokens of the day, and it helps you construct a transaction. There's more autonomous hedge funds. This is how AI16Z, recently renamed to Eliza OS, launched as a way to, hey, can we have a hedge fund that trades autonomously? Trading DAOs. There's bots for arbitrage, things like more social arbitrage, like you see something on Twitter and the bot trades before you, etc. This is definitely a big category. And in many of these cases, well, you need a wallet because they're actually going to be performing trades on chain. Payments is starting to become a big use case, especially this is more closer on the Web2 side. But as you start having some companies that have like swarms of agents that divide tasks between them, suddenly agents have a need to pay other agents or other services for usage. I wouldn't say there's a clear way to do this now, but and there's some people creating Web2 based APIs. But for us, I think the most natural thing is that this would run on crypto rails, potentially using USDC, like agents paying another one. Agents paying humans, that's another interesting one. One that in theory, an agent could try to pay with credit card, but we haven't seen any of that actually work well. Whereas if an agent has a wallet, they can just send USDC to someone else. And so I've seen like there's a couple of companies where an agent tries to do things and then they have a tool to, for example, call a task rabbit to complete a task. And then bounties, there's bounty platforms similar to these, but being able to give prices to, for example, agents that take a task. And finally, agents being able to buy goods and services. I think this is the category that's taking a bit longer to emerge, but it's going to be the biggest. Down the line, I see agents probably doing all the things that you see here. First, gifting. This one is starting to emerge. We have a couple projects that are working on this today of agents that, for example, give a gift to they're a relationship management agent and they want to send a personalized gift to the people you're trying to stay in touch with. This can actually be done on chain if you set it up properly using a wallet. Inventory management, e-commerce, agents selling or setting up shops. There's been a couple of demos on Twitter of that. Agents buying a pizza, shopping assistants helping you buy things, and personal assistants that can basically buy things on your behalf as well. All of these things could be done in crypto rails. They can be done in Web2 rails as well. Future will tell what's more popular, but we are confident that on-chain will prevail. Okay, so these are use cases. I'm sure there's more, and if you are building different use cases that use wallets, I'd love to hear more about them, maybe in the chat or later in Q&A. But with that, we're gonna get started and get a bit more dense. First part, this is a bit theoretical, but I think very important to think about is different modalities for deploying agents. Okay, what does this mean? I think it'll be more clear when I go one by one. But basically, you developed an agent, and like, where are you gonna host it? Who has access to that agent? How autonomous is that agent? Depending on the answers to those questions, there's like 3 different modalities that are emerging. One is self-hosted agents. So this is, imagine AI XBD or DGen AI. Many of the social agents you see today, someone at home, they pick up something like a ELIZA framework, and they may run it directly on their home computer or in a Heroku instance, and Netlify, something like this. But basically, in this category, I put teams, small teams or individuals who are just hosting their own agent, and they kind of own end-to-end the stack. They fully control the agent. If the agent had a wallet, they fully control the agent wallet as well. And there's no question around losing other people's funds. If you lose something, it's going to be basically your own agent's wallet. And to some extent there's lowest risk if you screw up. Like, you can screw up with your own funds, but not other people's. Okay, so I've called this the self-hosted category. And I think many of the viral agents you see on Twitter are actually more like this. Even if they launched in launchpads like virtuals, like AIXPT, I believe that they use that just for liquidity for the token, but that the owners of this are like hosting it on their own. I could be wrong. If someone thinks that they run it differently, let me know. But some of these things, this is my best guess, but from what I know from Twitter. Okay, then you have like more managed deployments. This is like I think the biggest category in Web 2, and I think it's starting to become the biggest one in Web 3 as well. So this is cases where there's an infrastructure provider. This could be a launchpad like Virtuals, could be a company like Cognition Labs, who does Devin or Lindy. There's one infrastructure provider, and then there's thousands, tens of thousands, millions of humans that go there and they create their own agent. And ultimately, they are the owner. No, so there's the provider that writes the code, writes the launchpad, or what have you, and then there's the agent owners that just come there. They don't want to write any code. They, maybe connect their wallet or sign up for an account, put their credit card, whatever, however it works, and they just say, "Create me my agent," and run it from there. These are, I think, they're more mainstream because they're typically no code. They don't require the agent owner to go and learn code and deploy a server and things like this. So they scale more. Basically, one provider can have 1 million agents. At the same time, they're a bit less customizable. But here, this is the category with the highest risk. If you're an infrastructure provider, if you're a managed deployment, like managed agent deployment provider, if you're, again, a Launchpad, you're a Cognition Labs, you're a Lindy, this is where you can really screw up. You're going to have a lot of users, a lot of funds, and a lot of potentially oversight from the community, from hackers, from regulators, and you want to make sure you're doing things properly. And then finally, we have this emerging category. This one is the most scary one. I think right now there's almost nothing in this category, but in the future, hey, maybe the doomsday agent that controls all is like emerges in this category. This is fully autonomous agents. These are agents that operate completely independently. There's no owner. Like, maybe there's a person who deployed them, but once it's deployed, it's running on its own in infrastructure like Tees or autonomous clouds. This is intellectually super interesting to me. Again, super scary. What happens if those agents go crazy? And has different risk model that we can talk about later. Okay. So just summary, but basically, I think it's important to know, what category am I in? Am I self-hosting my own agent? I think a lot of people maybe start with that during development, but is my ambition to create a service where I'm more like a managed agent provider? Again, am I a launchpad, or am I a website that people go to and create their own agent, even if it doesn't look like a launchpad? And people pay a subscription to use it. You're probably in this category. Or am I trying to create fully autonomous, unstoppable agents in the autonomous cloud category? I think I mentioned earlier, but this is the highest risk category and one that I'll spend a bit more time talking about. Cool. All right. Take a second to absorb what I just talked about. Now we're going to talk about the control challenge. This is mostly focused on that middle category, where there's, let's say, an agent, there's an owner, and then there's a, let's call it a launchpad, the company that's deploying agents on behalf of owners. The challenge that many of these companies are facing is they have to do simultaneously these three things. One, obviously, the agent has to be able to control the wallet. The agent must be able to send transactions, like send a payment, mint an NFT, perform a trade, right? Maybe you may want to constrain what the agent can do, but at a minimum, it has to have the capability of doing some actions. Second, the owner of the agent typically wants to retain control over the wallet. This is an exception. There's an exception in the autonomous cloud case, but in most cases, the owner, if their agent makes money, or if the agent screws up, no matter what, they want to be able to have like go and take the funds out, for example. At the same time, and I'll get into this more in a second, the launchpads probably don't want to control the agent wallet. Why can't the launchpad control the agent wallet? I mean, theoretically you can, but there's things that you take a lot of risk. First, there's user trust. Imagine you are virtuals, no? And everyone's deploying agents on your platform. And those agents, maybe some agent has a TVL of like $50 million. What if one day someone is like, makes a thought thread on Twitter explaining how the virtuals architecture actually allows the virtual team any day to just come and take all the funds out of that wallet. There's high risk that, I mean, your users would probably prefer to go to one where they know that if they deploy an agent, if there's no risk that someone in the team goes crazy or makes a mistake or a bug or something and takes all their money out. Second, there's the security risk. The moment that a launchpad has this control over the agents, first it becomes a honeypot. Hackers, instead of targeting one by one every agent they see on Twitter, they can go to a platform and just try to target, like if they know if they break their platform, they get 1,000, 10,000 agents. That's one. And now you start having, there's a lot of different ways in which we see companies trying to attack here, but from trying to compromise the server to trying to compromise the supply chain of software, like the dependencies, trying to put vulnerabilities in the code that they know these launchpads are running. So for example, and this is something that in the ELISA team, for example, they think a lot about to try to prevent it, but it's like as people are adding more and more plugins, that you make sure someone doesn't add a plugin that's malicious. So there's a lot of work being done there to try to prevent that in some of the agent frameworks. But another way to reduce risk is like actually it's you're running less code or like you don't have the control. And then finally, there's legal risk. This depends on which country your users are in. But in the US, if you, as an infrastructure provider, have control over users' funds, it doesn't matter if it's cryptocurrency or actual dollars. It depends state by state, but in many states, you become a money services business. This means you require money transmitter license and have really big fines or go to jail if you don't do it, even if you're not based in the US. In Europe, there's a new regulation, MiCA, that's emerging that has similar constraints, and I'm sure there's other countries as well. This is something that a lot of Web2 apps are aware, Web3 web apps are aware of, right? And you see many of these companies, like if they move money, you always have to bring your own wallet so that they don't custody it. And with agents, it's the same issue. If you're an agent launchpad and your agents have wallets, you need to make sure that you're being compliant here, or else you go to jail. And some states are very active on this. Like this is not like, oh, maybe in 5 years they'll come for me. It's more like, if you look for it, there's a lot of cases already open against Web3 apps. Okay, so this is why it's risky for a launchpad to control an agent wallet. It is not as risky if it's self-hosted because it's you cannot lose it. And if it's fully autonomous, you don't control it. So it's a bit less of a concern. And this is why I'm focused a bit more on that. Okay. I feel like I'm taking forever to go through this. So now I'm gonna go a bit faster, but go through possible architectures or solutions and what limitations that we have.
Alfonso,
Yep.
you're doing great. This is awesome, so don't worry. The pace is perfect, so yeah, great. Here to cheer you up. This is awesome. Yeah, I just have one little question, and that is, you have very clear like the different like types of hosting and how you can manage wallets and stuff. Where did you find all of this? Like, is this from somewhere, or is this your experience with the whole team by working with a bunch of different agents and builders and by building all this infrastructure?
Yeah. Great question. There's definitely no book for this yet. Um, I think so. These slides have been put together from our team's understanding after talking to. We participated in, I don't know, maybe around 10 different agent hackathons. Probably are helping maybe like 30 different agent companies of different modalities, and have been reading a lot also from a lot of thought leaders in the space. I enjoy reading, for example, from David from Late Protocol. There's you folks at the ELISA team, as well as like talking to Web2 companies at the same time. And hearing the concerns that they have. They're a bit more like concerned about security and regulation and things like this.
Yeah, cool.
So I would say if you want to read more right now, it's like following folks like the ones I mentioned and myself. Um, but I'm sure over time there will be someone will write more like a book or something, maybe based
Yeah,
on some
more
of these
more
things.
like formal standards, but yeah, yeah. No, this is
Yeah,
awesome because like it makes total sense, and yeah, just wanted to make that clear that yeah, we're very early to all of this, and probably things will change names, categories like will change and stuff. But I just love this breakdown because it helps a lot, like with the mental structure and the possibilities that you have while building agents. So yeah, I'll let you continue.
yeah.
Thank you very much.
No worries. And by the way, if you're watching this on live stream, definitely you're early. So congratulate
Yeah,
yourself for being on the cutting edge. Um, okay, so the most naive solution to well, how I deploy and secure my agent wallet's keys is you just put them in an environment variable. You have a maybe Node.js server where your agent is running or something in Python, and you generate a private key in your computer and just put it there. This architecture is totally fine for development. Okay, like this is I think the best one. And whenever I'm developing an agent locally, typically this is what I do. I just create a key very quickly, or for tests or things like this, and put it in a test net and just use it in the server. But this is problematic for production. I think everyone would probably guess this already, but on one hand, it's not secure. The moment there's a bug or a compromise in the infrastructure or things like this, the the key may leak. If you have multiple people in the team, someone goes wrong or the computer gets compromised, the key is leaked. And when a key is leaked, you cannot detect it. Maybe 3 months later, when the agent gets $1 million, someone pulls the rug and the fees and the money disappears. So this one is problematic in that sense. It's also, I mean, it could be suitable for agents that don't do much, like maybe mint an NFT or something like this. But be careful the moment you're putting money, even if it's your own. The other thing that's not obvious, and but it's a new vulnerability that emerges with these agents as well, is these agents hallucinate and fuck up. And if you put the key on an environment variable, depends on how things are written. It's possible the agent could also be, again, it depends on the code you wrote, but someone could do a prompt injection attack or something and actually take the key from you from Twitter or from Telegram talking to the agent. This is far-fetched, but I'm sure there's going to be cases of this happening. So anyway, this one kind of works, but mostly for development. Please don't use it in production or you put money. And if you're an infrastructure provider, you're definitely going to jail. um, not definitely, but if something goes wrong or someone sues you, very problematic. There's a second solution. This one is a slight improvement over the previous one, which is use server wallet APIs. You may have heard terms like MPC, I think popularized by Fireblocks, or Samir secret sharing. This is just a way of splitting a key between different servers. But in a nutshell, this is it's an architecture where your agent, the server, Node.js server or whatever that's running your agent, doesn't have the private key directly. Instead, it has an API key, and then it calls a remote API to like act with the wallet. Some solutions here, Fireblocks has this, Privy has server keys, Turnkey. At Crossmint, we also have server wallets that all operate in this modality. So this one, it's a bit better. The key in this scenario cannot be leaked as long as the provider is like reputable one. So no one can go and like steal your private key directly. This is much better because you, for example, if there's another team member of yours, you're confident that they didn't write down the key in a post-it, and then later, 3 months later, they're gonna quit the project and rug or something. But still, it doesn't fix a lot of the issues. The API key can still get compromised, and what you can reset it later if you detect that it's been compromised, but probably it's too late. If still an employee like stole the API key for, let's say, Fireblocks, 3 months later, they run in their computer a script that calls the API and says, give me all the money. You can set some server-side policies in most of these things that protect against maybe the most egregious things. You can set limits. Don't spend more than X amount of money. But it's a bit of a whack-a-mole. Like, are you sure that you closed everything? And at the end of the day, it ends up being easier to just have a different architecture. So this one, it is appropriate for production, but I think I would say for self-hosted agents. The moment you have like many agents there or a big team or things like this, it starts to become risky as well. Okay, and then a very important thing from a legal perspective, this one is probably considered custodial in the US because let's say you are running a server that has your agent inside, and that server is run by you at virtuals.com. You as Virtuals, the agent provider, control the API key, and you could theoretically just tell the wallet API, hey, this agent, I like what they have in the wallet. Ask this wallet to send me the funds instead. Okay, so the fact that basically you're separating the wallet into a third-party provider secures the key from compromise, like the private key. However, you still retain all the control. And for all matters and purposes, you're still basically custodial. You can still log to your users. If your server gets hacked, the funds can get lost. And if a regulator asks, do you have control over the funds? You don't have a way to say no. You're like, no, yes, I do, because I have the API key. Okay, so this one, I think if you go self-hosted, it may be good enough. Like it's your own agent, no one's gonna come sue you because it's your money. And as long as you don't have too many people playing with your server and stuff, you're probably fine. If your self-hosted agent has more than 100K in funds, then maybe move to another architecture. But if it's something smaller, this one works well. Okay, there's a third solution, TE Clouds. I want to caveat that when we get to the last one, it's a combination of some of these, but just using a TE Cloud, just an independent TE Cloud is what I'm proposing here in this solution. I'm not sure if everyone knows what the TE is, so I'm just going to explain very high level. But TE, I believe it means trusted execution enclave or something on those lines. They're servers that have this special kind of hardware like Intel SGX, which basically is like a hardware isolated enclave that's like a special part of, assume like the CPU or something with its own memory, where all the code that runs there, you can trust that code is running and nothing else. It's a bit like similar properties as a smart contract to some extent, where when you're executing a smart contract, it's a code that's open source and no other code is running. So you can prove, hey, this server, it's only doing this thing and it's cryptographically provable. And so you can use this technology, these TEs, to basically generate keys securely, store them in the TE, never make sure the keys are never leaked externally. And then the most important thing is you can also foolproof the logic so that you say, like, there's no backdoor here. My logic is just ELISA, for example, is running here. It's deciding this is the next action and passing that to the wallet. And there's no backdoor in between. As a developer, as an infrastructure provider, there's no way I could inject any code here that modifies what the agent does to run my own code. So to some extent, this helps a lot with compliance. Basically, it's an easy way to say, hey, this is my code, like officer or whoever is suing me. This is my code. This is a cryptographic proof that this is the code that was running. And you can see here, there's no backdoor. The problem with this approach is, of course, if you actually want a backdoor, okay? So benefits of these TE, you can run an agent in a TE, the key will never get leaked, and no one but the agent can use this key if you program it that way. The problem is now the agent owner cannot control it. This is running autonomously in the cloud. And if, let's say, someone comes to your launchpad, Banana launch agent launchpad, they deploy an agent, Banana agent is running in the cloud, it's running on its own, all good, trading, doing its own trades. Now you're like, hey, I want to get some money back. Again, we programmed this to not have a backdoor, so you cannot get the money out. So now you want to introduce the requirement of, okay, agent owners actually want to get some of the money out, get some of the funds back, or be able to stop the agent if it's doing something crazy. Then you need to program a backdoor. And now the problem is, if you need to program a backdoor, you really have to do this in a very careful way so that it doesn't introduce security issues or regulatory issues. So that backdoor only allows the agent owner, but not the launchpad, whoever control it. And this can be finicky. It is solvable, okay? But the challenge here is, if you implement this on your own, definitely get security reviews or do it by a team that knows 100% what it's doing. As backdoors historically in the field of computer security are like, this is the Achilles heel of all systems. Whenever you put like an admin control, that's what everyone's going to try to hit and where they can get you. So I think just running autonomous cloud, and I'll get to later, we're going to combine some of these into, I think, the best architecture, but just running this is best suited in my mind for fully autonomous agents. Okay, were you going to say something? I think I heard.
I was gonna, yeah, because you mentioned, I was laughing a little bit at the backdoor tip. I like it. But yeah, just be very careful with that. I would like, my question was gonna be like, how do you know which teams and which people know what they're doing and who can like, how do you trust when all of this is so new? I making like sideline questions because I think you're a great founder. I've seen you grind a lot and work with a bunch of teams, and you know, like it's hard to know who to work with, who to listen to. So like, yeah, a little tip on that, that would be great.
Uh, oof. Okay. Well, that's a hard question. What I would say is like by default, today don't trust anything. We're all figuring it out. And even talks like this about Wallet architecture, um, like it's the early days. I think for someone to fully implement this production ready, like audited, fully working, that you can put $1 million there if you give it a month or two. So I think in general I wouldn't trust an agent with $1 million unless like you know all the code or know really really well the team. It's gonna get there. I think probably quickly the community and the industry will hide, like people will, the market will tell. No, I think people will know, okay, who are the serious ones or not. And the serious ones tend to be the ones that talk a lot about how things work. They open source their stuff. With these, you need to open source the code, and then you can have remote code attestation. As I was saying earlier, you can actually check what code the agent is running. So the more that they're being transparent, that they're sharing, and they seem to be talking about, I think the better. The other one is obviously anytime that when someone, a thought leader in the space, let's say Shaw and Eliza, no, and
Yeah.
he will tell you who he trusts, and you can also have like transitive web of trust.
I like
Um,
the transparency one because like I love repeating this phrase, and that is obfuscation is not security. So like hiding stuff, even if you think you're hiding it greatly and you're really really obfuscating everything, that is not security. You may think it is, but it's not. So yeah, transparency is really great. Working with open source stuff that has been around for long is great. Teams that have proven themselves and being like running stuff for quite a while in a secure manner, also that's great.
yeah,
um yeah,
and
hard question, I
definitely,
know. Yeah.
definitely, token price is not highly correlated with how well it is done. Yeah, so don't
No.
assume that necessarily. I'm not gonna call out names, but there's some that have correlation and some that definitely don't. Uh,
Yeah,
Nonetheless, though, I did want to say, like, everything is early, and like there's definitely no bulletproof, robust implementation of this out there, as far as I'm aware. They are like to keep it to themselves. So give it, still treat everything as alpha in this space. But maybe in a month, some things are maybe what I would consider beta. Maybe in 2 months, 3 months, we have like production ready architectures of all of this.
Yeah, totally. Just be careful out there. Please keep on going. This is great. Thank you.
Cool. So here, lastly, what I wanted to present is a hybrid architecture that basically combines some of the pieces mentioned earlier. It's like dual key architecture that right now I think is like the holy grail of like getting all the things that you guys may want to get, especially if you're managing agents for others. This architecture is being used. They're under development, but maybe some are launching soon by a bunch of like the most popular agent launchpads that you heard about. So it's a bit like architecture that in the ones that I've been in, like we've been converging together as a team. So I'll explain that to you all here. And the good news is like it combines a lot of the pieces that I mentioned earlier. So if someone was thinking, oh shit, I was thinking of using company X or whatever, like probably you can still use them in this architecture, but you may need additional things on top. Okay, high level, it's somewhat simple. The idea is instead of the wallet being a single wallet that's maybe the one in the TE, or a single wallet that's maybe the one you put in the environment variable, or the one that's the server wallet, what you're gonna have is like an account abstraction wallet, a smart contract wallet. These are available today in EVM chains. Solana is launching very soon, some alpha here. DK EVM has them. So we like most of the major chains have some version of this already. So the idea is you have a smart contract wallet, which is the wallet address at the end of the day that the agent is going to use. And then this wallet, the interesting thing is because they are programmable, what you can do is you can have 2 separate keys for the wallet. You have a key that's given to the agent owner, and then another key that's securely deployed to the agent. And I'll talk about that more in a second. And the important thing is there's no launchpad or infrastructure provider key. There's no intermediate key in between that the launchpad can have. And that's what makes it like, as long as you can distribute these keys securely, this makes it very easy to attest and to verify that, hey, the infrastructure provider in between doesn't have access to this wallet. There's only 2 keys and they never saw them, no? And the challenge is more like how you distribute this. Okay. Let's talk a bit more about each of these technologies. Smart contract wallet. This is again a share. This is the wallet ultimately that the agent interacts with. It has a wallet address. Looks like a wallet. From an external perspective, is exactly the same as if it was a MetaMask wallet. And it will be implemented, for example, in EVM using the standard ERC 4337. There's a squads protocol standard in Solana that's like getting ready, and other chains have their own as well. And then there's infrastructure providers. We have an agent wallet that uses smart contract wallets. Fuck, I screwed up our name. Is Crossmint, please. If you Google us properly. Zero dev, lower level that at Crossmint we actually leverage. Economy, Alchemy has others. There's a bunch of other providers there. And this wallet implements this standard, and it's basically a wallet that's programmable. And amongst other things, it can have multiple keys. Then you have the owner key. The owner key looks a lot like things that you've already seen. It could be a user's own wallet, a Phantom, a MetaMask. It could be a passkey, a Touch ID. I think that's probably the future. Today, Web3, people have Phantom, MetaMask wallets, etc. I feel like the next, the remaining 6 billion users that are not in Web3 today would probably look more like using passkeys, Touch ID, Face ID from their phone. That can be the key as well for the owner key. You can use embedded social wallets, like login with Google, things like this. All of these are valid. The idea is this instead of using it as the agent wallet, you're just using it as a key for the agent wallet. Okay. And this one is clearly non-custodial if you implement it properly. Like a user has their own Phantom, and when you connect Phantom to Magic Eden, when you connect it to Jupiter, whatever, like Jupiter clearly doesn't have access to your key. They allow you to sign transactions, but they don't control it. And this is the same thing here. Like the user will control that key. If they sign into your Launchpad, with this key, you don't have the private key. Then the agent key. The agent key has to be deployed in a TE, in a trusted execution environment. Pala, who are, I think, also co-sponsors of this agent school, Marley Network, Late Protocol are some examples. I think there's more coming recently of TE networks that are really well suited for agent keys. Okay, the idea is you have this trusted enclave where there's the agent is running, and when the agent boot ups the first time, it says, "Do I have a key? No. Let me generate agent key." Okay, and then later, what you have to do, and I'll show you guys code. We're probably not gonna have time to actually do it live, but the idea is later you have the agent generate its own key. You have the user that comes with their own phantom or whatever. And there's a process where you basically need to enroll both as owners of the smart contract wallet, which is ultimately what the agent uses. So in all, what does this solution give us? The dual key architecture. On one hand, the keys cannot be leaked. We have one key, which is the MetaMask or Phantom or what have you, or passkey, cannot be leaked unless the user like shares their private key with some random like MetaMask support person on Twitter. Then you have the agent key, which is securely deployed in a TE, which, as we learned before, basically, if it's programmed correctly, if you don't put a backdoor, and in this scenario, you don't need to put a backdoor, that key will never get out. Okay. Then you have the owner has control through their MetaMask or Phantom. The agent retains control through the key that they deployed in the TE. And most importantly, the launchpad doesn't have control. The launchpad allows you to easily, no code, deploy a new agent to a TE cloud. It has the UI. It will do the orchestration of how do you register the keys to the same wallet. So it does all these complicated things, and it has a lot of value. It's like the most important piece of all of this, but it does never need to see these keys. So it can like remain non-custodial. The biggest issue of this architecture is that it's hard to implement. Like we've had to spend a lot of time like troubleshooting stuff for different developers. But the good news is that we have some open source code that launched today in, I'm going to say alpha, that I'm going to go through in a second, that actually makes this easier. In my mind, this is the best architecture for hosted agents. These are launchpads, things like this. Just a few additional benefits that you actually get with this architecture. You have gas sponsorship. You can have transaction batching. You can do things interestingly, like you can have a Solana Phantom wallet, for example, control an agent that interacts in mode, for example, or vice versa. Passkeys like Touch ID. There's things like cross-chain balance, like your agent is in mode and base. And Polygon, there's new technology that's being deployed that's chain abstracted balance, where you have 10 USDC in each of the chains, but you can go and pay for something that costs 30 USDC on another chain, kind of transparently. A lot of cool stuff coming as well. Okay, with that, 2 more minutes. So what I'm going to do, okay, so I explained a lot of theory here. This is a bit dense. Definitely, if you're working on this, like watch it maybe a couple times more. But the other thing I want to get you guys with, leave you guys with is this is the theory. There's open source code. We've been working together with Pala team, and we'll probably also work with other like TEs as well on Next.js quick start, open source quick start, that basically you can clone, and it helps you do all of these steps for dual key architecture, where you can just change the UI and make sure it's deploying your agent instead of a sample agent, and just go with it. I'm going to show that real quick, but we'll kind of leave you guys to actually read the README later. I'll post this on the link somewhere, wherever we can post links. But we have this thing called the Agent Launchpad Starter Kit. It's open source code, looks a bit, like this, where it's a launchpad for deploying Agent Rufus. And it basically showcases a bit like how you do all of this here. There are instructions that you should read later, but in a nutshell, I'll just say high level. There's a folder that has Launchpad, an Next.js app that's kind of the Launchpad, the UI that you would see here. Let's say this could be virtuals. It could look something like Cognition Labs for Devin, be Web 2, Web 3, however you want it. But basically the UI where a user goes and signs up and creates a new agent. Then there's in this case, we have a connector for Fala TEs, as well as an image. And there's some code that basically says, okay, this is how when you're ready to deploy an agent, you call this, it deploys an agent on the TE cloud, and then it autonomously and from the client side, without going through the server, asks the what is your public key and enrolls it as another owner of the agent. And then we're also going to be adding things like revoking access to an agent and things like that. All of this, so you have the open source code. The takeaway I want you to get with or the thing I wanted you to take away is everything I mentioned is maybe a bit abstract. There's too many pieces, but we're trying to help the community as well. We'll be working with different TE companies on having this so that you can basically just copy paste, change the UI, and make it work for you so that you can focus on the important things, which is where the prompts on your agent, where the tools it has, and how is it like solving user needs.
I've
And with
shared
this,
the link
we're
in the comments so people can go check it out. Yeah.
awesome. And with this, we're right at time. I did want to leave some time for questions, so I'm happy to stay a few more minutes. But hope this wasn't extremely dense. And if you didn't have time for questions, you're watching this later, just DM me on Twitter, AlfonGJ, or just search for Alfonso Gomez Jordana, and I'll be happy to take them as well.
It was not dense at all. Thank you very much. It may seem dense because it's theory and our attention span these days is completely wrecked. Maybe we need to put some Minecraft parkour videos next to the workshops for people to listen more. We do have a question from Ritoverse a little while ago, which is, what are the legal implications if the agents operate within a game or story with an in-game currency, but the business model is subscription via NFT membership?
Yep.
This sounds like legal advice. You can take it or not, just yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna start with I am not a lawyer, so let me just start with that. But I mean, actually, like I've heard some very similar cases before. uh, the first thing I would say is if your age, what you need to know if your in-game currency is considered a cryptocurrency legally or not. There's there's some literature about this online. Typically, if it's very liquid, if you can exchange it for money quickly, like if you have like you're promoting it as something that can convert to USD like easily and stuff, it may be seen as a currency. In this case, even if you're monetizing through subscriptions, if you're holding money for users, you want to be careful. Like if you're holding the wallets or the agents that hold the wallets for users, then you got to be careful. However, if this is purely a utility token, it's like you can, I don't know, gems in one of these games or something. You can only use it to buy like equipment for your players. Then you're probably on the safer side. But I'm not a lawyer. Definitely, if this becomes big, get a lawyer. And I think the important thing is like it will depend on the definition of like your in-game currency, what it can do, how you can do it.
Yes, appreciate you giving an answer. Of course, like just check legal advice from a lawyer that knows what they're doing, right? This is all very new and very complex, so yeah. So I think I don't see any more questions. We have some comments out there that just saying hi, that they love this. I'm getting DMs all over the place trying to reach out to you, Alfonso. So we'll make sure to connect you later. Just thank you very much for this. It was an amazing overview. I really haven't seen content like this out there, and the repository you shared is really great as well. So I would recommend everyone, like on our AI Agent Founder School, a lot of people are using Go to bring on-chain actions to their agents pretty easily and super fast. We're building a bunch of plugins for that on Mode. And the repo you shared as well sounds like a great place to launch their agents without really understanding that much on TEEs. I'm gonna give it a try. I just saw it. I think you just finished it, right? Like this past week.
You're gonna see more commits today and the next few days as well.
I
Uh,
love it.
yeah,
That's
def-
awesome. Yeah.
definitely. If you have questions when you're working through it or you find issues, just put it on GitHub or tweet me or what have you, and we'll look at them fixed. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you very much for this. This was like great experience. I know the what people watching this really enjoyed it, and our participants in the Agent Founder School as well. If you're watching this async, then feel free to reach out to me or Alfonso, like, or anyone from the Mode team or Crossmint team if you need any help. We're here to help you build your cool agents, and we want to see cool stuff being built. So yeah, reach out to us in Twitter, Telegram, GitHub, etc. Thank you very much, Alfonso. Any last message that you want to give to the world while everyone's saying goodbye?
No, keep building. There's a lot of awesome stuff going on. So yeah, excited to see what things come out. And also, like, if you make it big, please don't go to jail. Watch out for some of these considerations. Cool.
That's good
Thank
advice.
you,
Don't
everyone.
go to jail, guys. See
Yeah.
you, everyone. Bye.